Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the True Life Podcast. Hope everybody's having a beautiful day. Hope the sun is shining. Hope the birds are singing. I hope the wind is at your back. I got four incredible people here today, and let me just start it off this way. In the old world, collaboration was a chart on a wall, boxes, lines, and hierarchies. In this world, it's a living mandala. We are the Venn Diagram Architects, sovereign circles in motion, each with our own gravity, our own orbit. When our edges touch, something sacred emerges, a geometry that breathes, a structure that is less a building and more a temple. This is not a conversation about managing people. It's about mapping the spaces where art, commerce, and consciousness intersect, and discovering how those intersections can become gateways to the new Eleusinian mysteries. I have with me here today Jacob Tell from District 216, Carly Dutch Greene, Studio Delic, and Christian Gray from Atlas Consulting. Let me start off with you, Christian. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing. Very happy to be down in Medellin, Colombia, and just living life. So thanks for asking, George.
Jacob, how you feeling over there?
Feeling great, man. I just had a dermatologist appointment. My skin checks out, so feeling extra special today.
I love it. Carly, how you feeling over there?
I'm super good. Happy to be back in Mexico City after some time with family and psychedelic business events in the States. Just got a new set of nails. I'm pretty stoked about those. Happy to be here with you guys.
Nice. Well, let me inform the audience. We're all coming off like the Giant Maps conference. And inside that conference, there was the Psychedelic Playhouse 216 Studio Delic event. And everybody that I've spoken to and all of us that were there, I think there was something different about that event. And that's why I wanted to bring you guys all here today. It seems like there was something magical about it. And to me, it was the geometry of collaboration. Each one of you is an individual by themselves are powerful. And you each have your own brand and you each have your own strategy. But we came together as this whole sort of geometry. And I want to get in and dissect like what that was. So I've designed these questions for anybody to answer, but I know, let me just start off with Christian over here. Christian, when you came into this event, the Psychedelic Playhouse, did you see yourself as an individual or more of a collaboration or more of a collaborator?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all default to talking about mycelial networks pretty quickly in this space.
Totally.
And it's totally applicable here, right? No one of us could have done this by ourselves, and no team of three people could make what happened there. I mean, there was so much organic flow. There was so much synchronicities in terms of people's interest and ability to contribute. And it just all happened over time. You know, I think we all did individual work to make it happen, but it's what we did together and what others added to it that made it really special and made it meaningful.
Yeah, I agree. Carly, how did you feel coming into this particular project?
The first word that comes to mind is honored. Christian and Jacob called me, I think, end of January or something. And they're like, hey, we're thinking of doing this event. We'd love to have you involved. And I was like, yes, sign me up. To work with these two guys is really has been a dream. And it initially, we had no idea really how it would pan out. What we thought it was just gonna be like one night in a really small scale at the Plant Magic Cafe. We were thinking like 200 people, like just really a community gathering. And it took on a life of its own, and we all just enjoyed the ride. We carved out our roles as time went on, and really, I think all of our skill sets shined in their own ways. And that's why it came together so beautifully, because we each gave each other the space to really thrive and do what we do best.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Jacob, what was your thoughts on the whole beginning of the collaboration, and did your feelings change from getting into it versus being inside of it?
Oh, I mean, my feelings, I got more and more excited as the days and weeks went on, despite having, the pressure cooker of deadlines and adding more tasks and growing venues and adding nights and doing all that expansion. But for me, like, this is the ultimate expression of one of my favorite elements of like live music and comedy and things like that, which is the yes and sort of nature of improvisation and, following intuition, spirit, and really the camaraderie of this core team, and then our kind of next circle and 2 circles out from that. It was really just best idea in the room wins, and egos were put aside. And so when those ingredients are there in the recipe, I feel like the most authentic expression of something can occur, and that's certainly what happened with the Psychedelic Playhouse.
Yeah, it was, for me, it was so amazing to get to see behind the scenes a little bit. And at times, like behind the scenes, there was like this chaos and this sort of mixed with magic. You know what I mean by that? Like there was all these just things blowing up, but somehow there was this Ariadne thread that ran all the way through it. And I'm curious if maybe throw this one to you, Jacob. How does the tension create a better product or a better service?
Yeah. Back to that music analogy, or that, that tension release that we're all kind of looking for. But I mean, really it did. I think it challenges you to do your best work. And when you have a team like this, which, there aren't really many teams like this that I've encountered out there. This is a really special group of humans. And there really are kind of like this inner core here that you're seeing, but then there's another about dozen people that we were on consistent calls, text threads, WhatsApp groups, you name it, everything but Slack. To some of our team members just wanted that, but we were on all these communication threads, and I think what held it together was holding the vision for comments that came in like, hey, this speaker wasn't able to get their panel selected by Maps, and now they're going to have a spot, they're going to have a space, and their voice will be heard at this Psychedelic Playhouse event. And so those kinds of things I feel like really motivated us to continue doing our best work and come together to do that.
Yeah. Christian, what I saw in this particular group of incredible people was sort of an absence of hierarchy. And that was at the same time like beautiful, but a little bit like it was different for me. Did you notice, was there an absence of hierarchy, and how do collaborations happen with an absence of hierarchy?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you talked about chaos and magic, I guess we could say it was a magical goat rodeo, right? Because like something shot out over here and somebody rounded that up and got it back in the pen, and then these other things happened. But, I think because of how both Carly and Jacob and I did to some extent showed up, I mean, really being the executive producer, there was so much kind of weight and pressure and responsibility on Jacob. And then, Carly was wearing, at times it was 2 hats, at other times it was 12 hats, right? And there was just a bunch of other people that really cared about what was coming together. And so there was a lot of individual responsibility, and even words like sovereignty come into mind. Like you're going to do your best. You're going to try and take this goal or objective or activation and do something with it. And having the space to fail or have mistakes happen and not have people pointing fingers and laying blame, like there was a lot of grace given. And when it's go time, the door's open. So you better be ready.
I love it. So this question is going to be for everybody, but I want to start with Carly. Carly, what was the biggest lesson you think you learned from this collaboration, and how does it change your vision of building in psychedelics in the future?
Oh, what a question. Oh my gosh. I learned so much from this event. I learned so much from these 2 amazing men and the team that we worked with. It was actually my first event that I've produced, like in-person event. I've got online ones that I do, but so much magic in seeing the people experience everything. What I learned, and it sucks because I already knew this, but it was just a reaffirmation of just getting some more structures in place before letting it ride. I think we built a lot of structures as we went. We had some, but I think because it took a life of its own, we didn't really know what to expect. But I think in retrospect, we could have put some more specific roles and just been a little bit more clear on what those entailed. So we could hold individuals responsible and make sure that all the boxes got checked in the ways that they needed to.
Yeah. Brilliant points. What do you think, Jacob?
The question is my biggest takeaway or learning from this event. Was that the question?
Yeah, that's the question.
Man, have a hierarchy? No, back to Christian. That's a really good question. I mean, there's so many nuanced learnings throughout the way. Like if you would take each role, like of those dozen or 15 people, I bet you we could come up with a few learnings per role, right? We had someone that was just focused on art and artists and art installations. We had our director of fun, Kat Walsh. She was an amazing DJ herself who was managing the music and the DJs and the equipment and things like that. So like, I'm sure we could break down these roles and give you that. From my perspective, from kind of like an overarching producing perspective, I feel like there was a little bit of mystery as to what this was. Like Psychedelic Playhouse, some people like interpreted that as like a sex play party, apparently, I was told later by the naming. Other people had no idea what District 216 or Studiodelic was, or maybe they just thought we were like, logos at an equal placement with our sponsor logos. And so we were just other sponsors of this event. So I feel like maybe some communication around like, what this all means moving forward. But this was like a snapshot in a moment of time. Like this happened organically this way. And couldn't have happened. I don't think if there was more structure and hierarchy, it wouldn't have been the same event.
What's your take on that, Christian?
Yeah, I love Carly's come from on like more process and playbooks, and there's so much that we learn that can be documented and iterated on. And Jacob's point about like, had we had more hierarchy and structure, it probably wouldn't have been the same thing. For me personally, I'm pretty organized and a linear thinker and trying to, plan for contingencies and all these things, including, buying or leasing a parking lot that we didn't use, right? Like, I think learning to let go a little bit more for me personally is a learning and trusting that whether it's other team members or the processes or the venue or the talent, like everybody's going to take care of themselves as long as you give them the resources to do it. And you don't have to be on top of everything every minute and drive yourself nuts.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's almost like psychedelics themselves. Like you're not exactly sure what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like when you take like a big dose or even a regular dose, it's going to be, you're going to learn a lot, and there's so much richness in it, but you're not exactly sure what's going to ripen in your own karma at that point in time.
Ooh, I like ripen in your own karma. That's a good shirt, George. You got to go through all your podcasts and get like hats and shirts and mugs with your slogans. It's a good one.
Yeah. It's a great idea. There's so many cool people that come on here that just inspire me, and the conversations are always so rich. And speaking of rich, we got one coming in from the audience right now, and that one says, this one's coming from Arlo from Portland. Thanks, Arlo. He says, what's the first thing psychedelics teach you about working with each other?
Wow. I mean, surrender obviously comes to mind.
Yeah.
And then really we're going to be having a workshop on this in a couple of weeks here at District 216, shameless plug, but active listening, and really what does that mean? Like if you asked everybody on your team, like how do you interpret this concept of active listening? And I feel like one of the elements or variables or components of that I'm trying to do better at leaning into more and inspiring others to is like being comfortable in the silence and letting those pregnant pauses really exist so that we can, not just rush to another comment or answer or fix something or have a solution necessarily right away.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
That's so beautifully said, Jacob. I would add to that, and it's similar, but just surrender to the flow. Every psychedelic journey has its ups and downs, peaks and valleys, or roses and thorns, as Jacob likes to call them. And I think just trusting in divine timing, trusting that everything's working out the way that it should. The lessons are going to be delivered in the way that they're meant to be delivered. And Yeah, I really felt I felt the similarities of a psychedelic journey as we created this amazing event.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great that you brought that up, like the parallels there, George, because to me, this is a recurring theme in the last couple of conversations we've had, both online and offline, is this whole concept of trust. Trusting the universe, trusting the medicine, trusting the circle, trusting yourself, trusting your partners, or people holding space. And this wasn't done lightly. I don't think it was done, once again, maybe it wasn't done as well organized or with as much time as we would have liked. But we actually had, an intentional setting on the front end of this whole thing at PMC, where we got together the core group or whoever was available. And at the same time, people were trying to set up for programming. And we actually just stopped everything and just got quiet for a while and allowed ourselves to kind of set some internal intentions or give each other a little bit of space and a breath before we did the deep dive. And I think just even that level of thought and care showed how much trust we could give each other.
Yeah, I love that. I would also add in leaning into the uncomfortableness. You know what I mean by that? Like, you all have those journeys where you're like, dude, I don't even want to think about that right now, or oh wait, I'm thinking too deep on that. But it seems to me like I saw lots of instances where people leaned into the uncomfortableness, and it sort of built like this bed of roses that smelled beautiful. You know what I mean? And everybody there, I think, enjoyed that sort of magic that came from it. Who else do we got? We got Sienna from Berlin, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming all the way from Germany. She says, can psychedelics help creators spot opportunities they normally miss?
I think if you're actively listening and you're surrendering and you're doing all the things that we've been saying, like, you have more of an opportunity to catch what is being presented. Like, we can see more through the veil. We can, connect more to other perspectives on things when we kind of slow down and let those presentations happen around us.
I agree. Let me throw this one over here to you, Carly. So we're all familiar with like altered states of consciousness. Do you think it's your relationship with altered states that allow you to perform and do the job you do, not only with the event we had here, but with Studio Delic?
Absolutely. Yeah. 1,000%. I mean, my work, like my business is directly because I'm living in reciprocity to all that I've received from altered states, from plant medicine, from psychedelics. I've received this calling specifically from my time sitting with medicine and being able to be of service to businesses, helping them build their brands, their visual language, or their marketing campaigns and strategies, and reach their audiences to help more people understand the healing power of psychedelics. That's a direct correlation from the messages I've received in all altered states. And same goes for so many people in the industry. I mean, even in a medicine journey, like exactly a year ago, I got a message to reach out to Dennis Walker and the mycopreneur himself. And that opened so many doors. I was able to speak on a panel with him at South by Southwest. So like those little nuggets within those journeys, gotta listen. You never know what magic might be behind them.
Jacob, what are your thoughts on that, on the idea of your relationship with psychedelics and where you're at now and how it pertains to building in this space?
I mean, I've had a pretty deep relationship with psychedelics. I mean, you said altered states, so I didn't really know like that. I didn't really know about breath work in the sort of altered states way, or some of these other altered states tools that we have in our toolkit until maybe the last few years of my life, like since starting a psychedelic social club. But psychedelic wise and earth medicines, I mean, from my late teens on, I've had a deep relationship with them. They've inspired, paired with nature paired with live music and paired with community, like those three things, essentially my own kind of spiritual guidebook. They've inspired all of my major leaps through my entrepreneurial career, through, you know, creative projects, collaborations with others, interpersonal development, spiritual connections. I mean, the list goes on and on. So been a real integral part. I mean, I want to say too that I didn't know anything much about ceremonial use or therapeutic use again until I started a psychedelic social club a few years ago. For me, it was always recreational. And I like to say that, like, intuitively, my friends of trippers in college or whatever, friends of, you know, fish communities, we like intuitively do ceremonial use or therapeutic use in recreational contexts. Like, there's always been intention setting and integration and reflection and sort of idea around set and setting. It was just never as prescribed as it's become in my life now. So I think it's an interesting arc for myself to reflect on, and it's a good reminder for us to be open to all the different contexts and uses of these medicines.
Nice. Christian, what do you think? What's your opinion on your relationship with altered states and how this event came to be? And
Yeah, thanks for the question. You know, I don't necessarily connect those dots directly, right? Like, I feel like a lot of the things that I was doing outside of plant medicine and altered states of consciousness contributed to being able to help foster this. And then that being said, there's a lot of altered state of consciousness work through plant medicine or breath work or mindfulness, you know, some of the other modalities that I think had a positive impact on how the psychedelic playhouse came together, right? Whether that was trusting things when there might have been concerns, or trusting myself when I hadn't done a specific thing before. And, you know, we put Firestarter in quotes kind of as a joke because we had different titles for me early on, and as it morphed and emerged, like, that's really one of my superpowers, right? Is seeing patterns or trying to connect people, humans. And there was a lot of humans involved in the psychedelic playhouse. And whether they were, you know, artists or speakers or content contributors or panelists, like entrepreneurs, like, you know, I think the ability to see what people have to offer, even when they don't see it themselves, is something that's probably been elevated for me or amplified through my consciousness work.
yeah, it's beautiful. I want to say what's up to the chat over here. Kay Ram, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kay. Mary Oliver comes in and she says, agreed, the team displayed great grace, emotional maturity, and leadership. And of course, we have the one and only Jen Rubite, who is there crushing it. Thank you so much, Jen. She says, having volunteered for both events that week, I can attest to the amazing leadership qualities of this group. It was inspiring to see chaos become composure. It was awesome to witness and be part of. Y'all treated us volunteers incredibly top notch. Yeah, and I don't even know if volunteer is the word. They're more like team members. Like, everybody there on some level pitched in with everything they had. And I think that's what made the coherence so beautiful. You know, for me, it brings up this other point too. In psychedelics, there seems to be sort of a distinction between someone who provides medicine that's never done it versus someone who provides medicine who has done it. And I think that's same for building in this space. When I see a group of people come together that have a background, a personal relationship with psychedelics, I feel like they build something better than maybe an entity that doesn't have that relationship. Who wants to start and take that one?
I'll jump in only because I have a few minutes left, and I apologize. I've got to leave at the top of the hour, and that'll give a lot more talking stick time to Carly and Jacob, so they won't mind. You know, I think that when you look at folks, trainers, educators, facilitators, conference producers, media companies, I think there can be a little bit of tribalism, you know, us versus them, those that have done this or that. And to me, that just does not ring true to this whole conversation. Like, especially when we talk about people who have or have not used plant medicine or psychedelics, there's a whole bunch of different ways to alter states of consciousness and awareness. And I want to respect all of those traditions. I want to encourage people to explore them for themselves. and not all molecules and not all plant medicine is made for everybody. So to just, not from a judgmental standpoint, but to assume that because somebody hasn't sat with a certain medicine, that they aren't capable of curating a thoughtful group of people to explore that more, I think that doesn't ring true for me. I appreciate that most of the folks that we worked with have had these experiences. I think it definitely informs them differently about what's important and why. But I think anybody can come into the tent and contribute.
Yeah, it's well said. Anybody, what do you think about that, Carly? What's your take?
Yeah, I definitely echo what Christian is saying. It's also something Jacob and I have talked about, how working with people who do have a relationship with medicine does create a little bit of a different depth of connection, because you have that ability to relate on something so specific and special. It's sort of like speaking a different language.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really agree. It doesn't make or break like good or bad people, or people that can contribute in meaningful ways and people that can't. It's not that black and white. Yeah, that's my thought on it.
Nice.
For me, Christian's out.
Thank you so much, Christian, for being here, buddy. I appreciate it. Nice.
For me on that, I would say the team, it's all about values alignment. So do we have core value systems that match? That's going to be ultimately what defines success on the team. Because when there's a friction point, or a moment that requires resolution, if we share values and really we're, putting the vision at the forefront and the event and the purpose and the why of what we're doing ahead of our own egos, then we can resolve pretty much anything.
Yeah. I get kind of torn. Like I do agree wholeheartedly that there's room for everybody to contribute. My personal opinion, and this may be unpopular, is just that there seems to be a level of language that happens between people who have shared a similar experience. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's just the lens through which I see it, but it seems to me that like there is this sort of connection when you can tell someone like, man, I got to that point where like I couldn't even like look at any screen without everything being crazy, or like I couldn't even talk. You guys ever get to that point where like you can't talk and like someone with you is like, I know where you're at. Like there's like a sort of like exchange of like, okay, I don't sound so crazy then. Maybe has something to do with my ego, or has something to do with the way I see the world. But I do feel there's a deeper connection between someone that has probably had these big events. And maybe that's a deeper connection to tragedy on some level. Maybe that's just talking out too much, but it's an interesting concept to think of. And I do think we can bridge those gaps, but it's just an interesting question I wanted to bring up to see what you guys had to say.
We share like frequencies.
Yes.
Or when we've been somewhere, it's like you've gone on that trip and visited that country and seen that thing. And then automatically it's like, you've got, this narrative that can be easily truncated. You can kind of skip past the introduction and get right into the meat of it.
Yeah.
I feel like psychedelics, like we're getting on these similar frequencies, or at least experiencing those frequencies, even if it's just a one time or a few times. It may not be like our frequency, like to Christian's point, not every medicine is for everybody.
Right.
But at least to have seen the existence of that mode of thought, or maybe that other side of that DMT world or whatever it is, it's like we can have that conversation now in a much, faster way.
Yeah. And when I look at all the people that showed up at that event, obviously we were at MAPS, but everybody there at that event, like I felt a connection to, even the ones I didn't know, like there was just this camaraderie there. And I have to think it's because we've had this shared experience that we're all trying to figure out together. And it seems like those are the people on some level that are figuring it out together. Like everybody comes together and they share this experience, and then they all go back and they bring that experience to their community. It was so beautiful. What are your thoughts on that, Carly?
Yeah, I mean, the psychedelic industry, community is like, it really feels like family. It's the most special space industry to build something in my opinion. I'm biased, obviously, but I think it feels like you can walk into any room and start to have deep and meaningful conversations with people, which is something that's so unique. The Playhouse was buzzing both nights with amazing conversations with amazing people in every room at any moment. Like you could literally and easily be invited to those conversations. I could just walk up to two people talking and be like, "Hey, what's going on? Can I be part of what's happening?" And that it would happen and magic would be made. And yeah, that's really the beauty of, I think, our event, of Jacob's events, of events, conferences within the psychedelic space is, right, coming back to this, we are on that same frequency or similar frequencies. So we can really just drop in and be with each other in a way that, you know, is really challenging in other industries, because there's so many people doing so many different things, and it can be challenging to connect. But when people have done more of that deep work, it makes things easier.
I have two thoughts. One that just came up when you said that, Carly, because other industries and other conferences and other situations I find are very much more driven by alcohol. And I think this is our opportunity to call this out right now, that the psychedelics ecosystem versus the alcohol-driven industries or holidays or events or situations, like it's a total different frequency. There's different intention. You know, alcohol is definitely like more of a self-pleasuring, self-soothing, more of a individual situation, versus psychedelics are more communal, community oriented, the oneness, the connection to a higher power, and those sorts of things. So that's one thought on it, is just not to say that there was not alcohol around the MAPS conference or events, or even at our Jonas Brothers event there was, but I don't think that's as much of the focus or as much of the driver, or as much of what allows the social lubricants of maybe some other conferences or events. That's kind of one thing. And then the other thing I noticed generally at the MAPS conference and within the psychedelics ecosystem is that we're kind of collectively a couple of steps ahead of where I find sort of the typical normie conversations happening back at home. It's like we get so hung up with us versus them and the political landscape and all the fear-driven stuff and the news cycles. And I feel like we're all kind of like a few steps past that. It's like we're in solutions mode here. We're beyond like having to fight about, you know, red and blue kind of conversations. And we're even if we don't all align in those ways, it doesn't matter. Like we see much more important work to be done, and that we are actively doing. And I think we can have more meaningful connections because of that.
Yeah, that's really well said. And it's interesting to think about the absence of alcohol, not only at that event, but when you start looking at the statistics of younger individuals, it seems like more and more people are turning away from that particular modality of release and finding new meaningful ways of release. And you see it in the messaging, you see it in the podcast, you see it in the both of what you guys are doing too. You each have your own ecosystem. Like Carly has not only Studio Delic, but she puts on these incredible mixers like once a month. And you go into those mixers and it's like, hey, I'm back with the family over here, you know? And Jacob's got 216 where he's bringing people in. And it's so welcoming to see that particular aspect, not only at the event, but then to see these particular ecosystems that you're each building in order to like bring those people back together. I don't know if that event would have been as successful if each of you didn't have your own ecosystems.
That's probably very true. I mean, I think, you know, some context in history for anyone who cares. I mean, Christian and I had done some events together prior to this.
Okay.
Like he and I had produced a couple of things. In fact, that's when I finally got to meet Carly, was at one of our little holiday shindigs in Los Angeles. And so I think like, yeah, because, you know, we had some newsletters, like Christian definitely is really good at pounding the pavement, just more than pretty much anyone I know. You know, I've been organically building this psychedelic social club. Carly's been building her ecosystem. I think that's why we probably felt comfortable bringing the three legs of the tripod together the way we did, without necessarily pointing to that or defining it. It sort of was like, well, if all goes to hell and we only end up with like one night of a smaller event, we know at least like probably 100 of our closest friends will show up at the very worst. And we'll still have a good time. And yeah, and if it grows from there, cool. And it did, by the way. Spoiler alert, it grew. And continues to, which is exciting.
It not only does it continue, but it feeds off of that. Like, I've spoken to so many people from that event that influenced where I'm moving in my direction. I'm like, oh my God, this is a total resource that I can use. And I can totally help them too, from Kat Schuler to Eve. And like, there's just so many incredible people that I met there that all of a sudden I was able to fold them into my own little Venn diagram. And I think that that's how we're going to continue to see, like, we've seen tremendous growth in the psychedelic space, from Texas legalizing or getting a grant for ibogaine, and so many people building in this space, people like Saba, or journalists like Alex and Jack. And it seems to be growing at a level that is outpacing everything else. And maybe I'm being too optimistic because I love psychedelics and I see the people that are doing it. But do you think that it's going to continue to grow at this pace?
I guess I'll take that one.
Yes.
It's really hard to predict the future.
Yeah.
And especially because we exist in this bubble of like, we live and breathe psychedelics. We live and breathe this industry. Like, it feels probably a lot bigger for us than it is for the rest of the world. I think that's the reality. But there's a beauty in that, right? Because if we kind of feel the energy of it, we can help initiate that ripple effect throughout the rest of the world. Yeah. We're like, this is big. This is happening. Here's what's going on. Let's talk about it to people who wouldn't talk about it. Let's get them involved. Let's connect them with medicine if they're called. And that's how, like, the goal is universal healing and using psychedelics and plant medicine as a tool, right? We are at a point in history where this needs to happen. Like, there's no, maybe it could help. Like, this is the path. And so being charged by the excitement and the momentum in the industry is essential to it actually taking off, having an impact, and making a difference in the world. So is it going to be as big as we think it's going to be? I don't know. I don't know. But I think we have to kind of like believe it for it to happen.
One thing to add on, I love that, Carla. It's beautifully said. The variable that keeps coming back to me is like the heart-centeredness of so many people that have been in and around this space for so long. And I'll point to one example of a conference, of a small event in the psychedelics ecosystem that had happened for 3 years prior, which is not happening in the same form this coming December, which is the Remind Psychedelic Business Forum out in Las Vegas. It was essentially launched as a subset, a psychedelic track of the MJ BizCon Cannabis Conference. So really large, been going on for years, one of the biggest cannabis events in the country, if not the world, in Vegas at the convention center. And they wanted to have some relevancy with psychedelics. So they started this little track. The first year was a day, then it went to 2 days, and what I noticed in that was, like, I went to all 3 years, and in the beginning, there was a lot of the cannabis industry folks, cannabis bros and whatnot, investors, and they were really trying to kick the tires to see, like, is mushrooms the next cannabis? And are we able to monetize, psychedelics in the same way that we figured out how to legally do this in some states for cannabis? And then when they realized it wasn't going to be that way right away, we watched the attendance dip in the best way, because then what was left were like these heart-centered people. And then we saw it again where, like, now this is going away. They're trying to do some psychedelic, sort of programming still at this event. But we saw it happen with MAPS as well, where 2023 was the biggest because we had this FDA clinical trial, with MDMA on the horizon. And we thought we were going to see MDMA have a track for use for PTSD and whatnot. And when that didn't happen, again, we saw this dip in attendance from 2023 to 2025 at the MAPS conference. And what was left again were the heart-centered core of this ecosystem. The people that truly want to be here, not just those that are like needing there to be some kind of revenue driver or some kind of, not to say that we aren't all in here trying to make our way, financially as well, but that isn't the first and foremost variable I feel with was what was left in 2025. So I really think there's something to that. Like everybody that's putting in the effort now, like all the people you just listed, George, these are like heart-centered folks that are investing their time and energy and wanting this to be what Carly just described about these healing modalities and tools that humanity once again is going to have access to after Nixon's 50-60 year war on drugs.
Yeah, it's a beautiful point. Yeah, you need that foundation. You need the foundation and that culture of people who are in it because they love it and they believe it. Like that's where the real growth comes from. Because it's easy to be in something when you're making money or it's buzzing or it's easy to be in it then. But I think it's the people that really build out the framework that are in it because they love to do it. And not only like both of you here, Christian, and everybody that took part in that event, like I got that same vibe from them. They really were there because they were passionate about it. It changed their life and they want to see other people become the best versions of themselves. I think that's the messaging for psychedelics. At least it seems to be one of the core messages for me.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that's doing this for money.
And
I say with love.
If you do, send them her way, by the way.
What was that, Jacob?
I said if you do, send them to Carly. Send them her way.
Thank you.
What do you see as so we've talked about messaging a little bit, but what are some core messages that each of you do in your own sort of psychedelic world that you want to resonate in a bigger part of it? Let me start over there with you, Carly. Like what's the core message from Studio Delic and all the work that you're doing to help create a better space?
Thanks for that question. Yeah, I think I gave it away a little bit in my last answer, which is like the North Star is universal healing. And the clients that I work with really believe that in whatever way that they are contributing to the psychedelic industry is really truly contributing to the healing of the world. So whether that's a product or a retreat center or an individual facilitator, I pride myself really in being able to help them get really clear on their message and their demographic and what their value add is so that they can connect with the right people and they can get their service, their offering, whatever that is, to the people that need it the most, and support them on their journeys. And for me, I mean, it's an absolute joy and honor to work with businesses that are dedicated to psychedelic medicine in one way or another, so that we can all carry that message to the right people and create a world where access is not a hope, but it's an absolute yes. Like anyone who needs it, anyone who wants it, has it available to them.
I love it. Jacob, what do you think is the core message of what it is you're trying to deliver to the space?
I mean, really, it's probably normalization first, like normalization of psychedelics use in our daily lives worldwide. That's kind of our vision statement, more or less. And in the beginning, I defined like a psychedelic social club. Like we have a manifesto, we have all these values. You can see it on our website. So we're very specific about what that means. But generally speaking, we were about connection, learning, growing, and sharing. But about a year in, when I was surveying our members and actively listening again to like what they had to say back, they told me a lot of especially like the baby boomers who didn't necessarily have a place to talk in family or friend circles about their psychedelic experiences in a safe way. Like that safety created the conditions for healing in community in ways that, and not necessarily with the medicine directly, but the community as the medicine, and communicating about this, talking about it, connecting to trusted sources of, retreats or therapists or practitioners, trying to make sense out of an experience in an integration circle, things like this. And so for like, year 2 on, we now have these additional, value statements around healing and consciousness expansion and connection. And that's really what District 216 is here for. Ultimately, though, we want to see safe access and normalization of the psychedelics the way we've had for thousands of years in humanity. And it was just, again, until in modern times, until recent times with Nixon and Reagan's, just say no campaigns and these things that, again, these were demonized because they open up thought, and our government doesn't like it when we think. That's why alcohol is pushed the way it is, in stark contrast.
Yeah, it's a great point. I would add one of the core messages that I want people coming away from the podcast that I do is that I think all of us that are involved in psychedelics right now have a responsibility to bridge the gap between generations. Like I'm coming up on 50. So I see myself as someone that got to grow up with like the boomer generation. And then I see this younger generation. And I think we have a real opportunity right now, especially with so many people in the older generation kind of knocking on the mortality experience over here. Like what a great way for them to begin integrating psychedelics into their life towards like the end of life treatment, sort of coming to grips with, whoa, what did I just go through? And then they may have all of these particular maladies or these things in life that they haven't forgiven themselves for. And I think psychedelics not only can be beautiful for that, but it could be a great way for the younger generation to be spending time with their grandparents, and getting to relive some of these experiences and relearn the wisdom of some of these people that have made it further than us. And so I want people listening to this today and the rest of my podcast to realize that psychedelics can be a bridge between generations. And I think that will help. There seems like a pretty big divide sometimes. And I think psychedelics could be that bridge for us all to sort of come together and start having some shared goals and some shared sacrifice. But it's been pretty big, this idea of psychedelics and end of life. I know that you've had some people in your mixers talking about it, Carly, and maybe you could touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. I think, I've experienced firsthand psychedelics in my life be transformational for processing grief and processing end of life. I haven't had experience like facilitating or sitting with someone in those capacities, but I mean, I have no doubt like using psychedelics as a way to come to terms with life, come to terms with the way things are moving, or come to terms with the end. I mean, I know there have been studies done with cancer patients and end of life work that have seen tremendous results.
Yeah. Jacob, you just had Death and Psychedelics at the
Coming up.
216. Oh, it's coming up, right? It's coming up.
Can I shamelessly plug Death and Psychedelic?
Are you kidding me? Plug it away, man. Let's talk about it.
Our 10th marquee event since 2023. This is a big one. We're getting to double digits. Death and Psychedelic, September 27th, the Saturday. For all of you who want to come to Santa Barbara, it's the most beautiful time of the year, late September into October. So come on out if you don't live in the Central Coast of California. We have some amazing panelists and fireside chat speakers. We're kind of tackling it from a few angles. Like one is like obviously end of life and what these tools can do in the context of just everyday death and dying situations, and then as well as like specific to cancer and a terminal illness. But then we're also going to go into like the ego death side of the conversation of psychedelics, and then thirdly we'll be talking about like day-to-day shedding of things and dying in different ways, be it like a divorce or moving from a home or changing jobs. We kind of go through the death process in different ways in our lives and how we can do that with more ease and grace. But I think what you said about the multi-generation, to bring it back to that, George, that is like critical. The coolest part about District 216 is that we have 30 somethings to 80 somethings in the room just about every single week. And definitely at our marquee events. There's a great a bridge of demographics, and to Carly's comment earlier about being able to like go up to somebody and just enter yourself into a conversation and be accepted. That's the energy and vibration of what I see here in our community. And I'm not trying to say that's a feature of District 216. I think that's more a feature of the psychedelics ecosystem, the mycelium network, and of where people really want to go with their healing. And we're, you know, I think we just come out of we have to mention, we've just come out of an isolation epidemic with the pandemic. I mean, there's so much isolation that almost became normalized that we had to relearn how to reconnect with each other, and which was a big impetus for starting this social club when we did. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
Man, let me jump. People are lining up over here, and I want to give them their credit. Vladislav, everyone should check him out. He's an incredible individual in the world of psychedelics. He's working across continents. Vladislav, thank you so much for being here. He says, thanks for continuing your great work. Nice to see your familiar faces. Of course, we got the great Adam Mizo chiming in over here.
We love Adam.
What is best networking event and sans alcohol? And then he comes in again, my friend Adam, and says, psychedelic stalwarts. Adam, we love you, man. Incredible voice. Global Psychedelics Week is coming up. Everyone should be checking that out. We got Mary Oliver. She says, I appreciate you all. Looking forward to when we can meet next, weave magic together, hopefully at ACT and South by Southwest.
We're coming to Austin, Mary.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know which year, but we're coming to Austin.
X-Files. Okay, so here we have a friend of mine, Chase Hatton. Chase Hatton is like my nephew. I love this kid. He says, I'm born in 1999, and I think that gap definitely does need to be bridged. Follows up with, just getting that ego death experience truly opens up a more open communication, I feel. And sometimes people just need to try psychedelics in order to open the communication style. So this gives me hope that, like, no matter what age you are, you're getting the message of psychedelics. And like that opens you up to those relationships. Or maybe some of those, maybe it's time to forgive your parents, or maybe parents, it's time to forgive your kids, you know, but it's unfortunate that seems to only happen around the last days. And yeah. I think with Death and Psychedelics at 216, you're opening up that conversation that has the potential to heal families, to heal generations, man. Who are some, I think Kat Kerner is going to speak there, isn't she?
Kat Kerner is going to speak there. One thing I want to mention is like the most requested question, I guess, or sub theme that I've heard people want this panel to cover is like, if you're of a certain age, like let's say Gen X, and you've got aging parents or aunts and uncles, like how do you bridge the conversation to a generation that is not necessarily as open to psychedelics as tools? You know, if we're coming in to help start the first little bricks of that bridge, what are some tactics that we can have to like start that conversation with a dying family member, to be like, hey, this is actually something healing that we can do together, you can do individually, and we can talk about and integrate together afterwards. Like how do we approach that? I don't have the answers, by the way. I just have the question.
Yeah. Carly, how do we approach that? What are some questions we can ask?
It's interesting because I mean, I immediately think about my mom, which is the person in my life that I'm closest with in an older generation, and that I would love to sit with in ceremony. And it's interesting because she is in long-term recovery, and I grew up around abstinence, or, you know, like sobriety in general, people in recovery. I grew up in AA rooms, and she actually started an outpatient treatment center, and she's been an alcohol and drug rehab therapist for, you know, since I was born. So, and before. And so even having the conversation of like, hey, mom, I know you worked in this like abstinent space. I'm going to go over here and like actually promote drug use. So I'm taking quite the opposite approach, but I've been blessed to have such an amazing family that's so accepting and loving. And they really do believe in the transformative power of psychedelics and plant medicine. And so that conversation has been really interesting. what's the difference between a drug and a medicine? That's been the core of that conversation, right? Because the ways in which that she had used in her past was as a means of an escape from life, as a way of numbing the trauma, the wounds. And this experience with medicine is so vastly different from what she had experienced throughout her time using. And even though she had used, and I do have permission to share this, I want to be clear, she did have experiences with mushrooms, but it was in the, in a very numbing way, an escapist way. And so the conversations that we've had is like, how, if, and when could we use this as a tool to continue your healing process? And is that something that we could do and experience together? And so, yeah, I would say, I don't know how to have the conversation with everybody, but to start to talk about the difference between a drug and a medicine, I feel like is really important.
It's a great answer.
Yeah, that is a great answer.
And also, like, drugs are great. I love drugs, like, not like end the war on drugs, but I think that conversation with older generations is they like compartmentalize drugs as like bad, right?
Drugs are bad, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just say no. Let me show you this egg burning in a frying pan over here, because this is your brain on drugs, It's just propaganda and the messaging.
Oh, the propaganda is awful.
Yeah.
I would add too that for me, like, I've been speaking with my parents about doing psychedelics. And in the beginning of that conversation a few years ago, they're just like, you are out of your mind, George. What are you talking about? You want to do these drugs? You want me to do drugs? You are out of your mind. But my dad is a veteran, and he has gone through all the different veteran treatments, like talk therapy, and they've changed the way that he has sort of sees these drugs, and so I've had long conversations with him about, like, hey, Dad, have you heard about like psilocybin? And he goes, yeah, some guys at the club are talking about it, and it's some of them that's pretty good success. And so his sort of idea about doing psychedelics has opened up because of the community he's around. And on my mom's side, like, she definitely grew up in that era of, Art Linkletter's daughter jumped out of a window. You want me to jump out of a window?
Right.
Like, that programming is deeply ingrained. However, I've had some success in, like, hey, Mom, I love you. There's some real issues I want to talk to you about. And here's what I think. And once you open up that conversation, and I'm willing to bet everybody listening to this has a conversation like that they could talk to about a loved one. It's probably very painful. It is for me. But just reaching that idea in that conversation, having the courage to say, hey, there's some things that I haven't said because I didn't want to hurt you. But that I don't want to leave, or you to leave, without us saying it, without us talking about it. And just that intro, I think, opens up the door for psychedelics. Because then for me, I'm like, let me tell you what I've learned through this therapy. And my mom's like, what kind of therapy? I'm like, psilocybin therapy. Oh, you mean mushrooms? But it changes that frame. It takes away Art Linkletter's daughter, and it puts on the face of her son, like, I love you, but I got this demon inside of me. I got to share them with you,
Yeah.
And like, that opens up the door to, like, oh, well, if my loved one is talking about it and they've done it, and they're obviously here and they're talking about important things, maybe there's something to it. So I would offer that to anybody listening who wants to maybe bridge that gap. That might be a good way to reach it there. But these are important.
Yeah, and thank you to the baby boomer thought leaders that have, like Michael Pollan and Oprah and others that have started to shine a light on this conversation. Those are great entry points. If they like to read, get them the book, or if they like to watch, Netflix and How to Change Your Mind 4-part series, introduction to help destigmatize. I think the stigmas are so, like, that propaganda worked. That's the thing, is like, we have to acknowledge that Nixon and Reagan and all and others, like, that worked. That ingrained multi-generation stigmas that we're having to chisel away and chip away at to this day. And we'll have to continue until that generation's gone. And new generations that didn't grow up with that can take policy and move it forward. So, I think that the voices from that generation, like the Michael Pollans, they can represent, some form of truth. And it was the same thing that happened with Dr. Sanjay Gupta in the cannabis space with Charlotte's Web and CBD, where he literally flipped his opinion and he went from being anti-cannabis to pro-medical cannabis through this story on CNN, and it completely shifted popular, belief around this.
Yeah. Sometimes the word medicine gets me though. It seems like it's so as good of a word as it is to describe what it can do for you. It also comes with a lot of baggage. It seems like it comes with centralization, and it comes with like these supply chains and stuff like that. So I don't have a better word for it, but maybe sacrament or medicine. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Like redefine what medicine means, like flip it. Like we control our medicines, pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies, and doctors control drugs.
Yeah.
Like flip it, redefine it.
I agree with that. I think in recovery rooms that I've been in, there's a lot of like God that gets thrown around. And a sponsor of mine said, "Oh, if that bothers you, change it to love, change it to light, change it to something that makes you feel divinely guided," right? And it's the same thing for medicine. Medicine isn't medicine just another form of God in a way?
I talk about music as medicine or community as medicine. Like the whole point is we can heal through different modalities. So is the vehicle that brings us there maybe considered a different form of medicine? Like we can redefine that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I feel like there's a lot of redefining going on. And you brought up a key word, community. In the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about the events, but what we're really talking about is community. Carly brought it up when she said it was like family. It's like you go into these spaces and you're like family. Like how much of a medicine is family? Like the family that you choose to be around, the energy you choose to be around, the messaging you choose to be around.
Good qualifier. Let's focus on the family we choose.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really in a place right now that I'm trying to cultivate my own family and community where I'm at in my life, with like similar values and alignments. I mean, I'm blessed with a blood family that I'm really deeply connected to, but community, I was talking to someone new in my life, a meditation teacher, and he was telling me, he's like, we live in such an individualistic society, and we're so deeply convinced that everything that we do, we have to do ourselves. And if we can't do something ourselves and we can't do it well, then it's our fault. But what happens if we come back into community and we're supported by people who can do things a little bit better or differently than us? That inevitably makes us better. That makes us execute excuse me, and learn and grow in ways that we wouldn't be able to if we stayed alone. And so being in spaces like the Psychedelic Playhouse, the psychedelic communities in general, the Psychedelic Professionals Networking Club, little plug there, and District 216, really importantly, is they help us become better versions of ourselves by being in these spaces.
That's so well said. To yes and that, the concept that I didn't fully grasp or understand until starting a psychedelic social club and coming out of a pandemic, is healing in community. Was not just, it's sort of our responsibility to do that, to take healing into our own hands and to not have to do it alone, to Carly's point, or to Carly's meditation teacher's point. Like, we actually can heal in community and should heal in community, and always have healed in community. And that there's reasons for why indigenous traditions around using certain psychedelic compounds in circles and ceremonies in these ways has existed for millennia. It's because they're more effective this way. We can actually have a collective outcome. We can actually connect, our brains and our spirits this way.
Yeah. as you say that, it makes me think that might have been the magic that happened at some of these events, is that you are around all these people that want to help. And so many of us are afraid to ask for help, and it starts with a conversation of like, oh, can I tell you what I'm doing? And then someone at the event, someone's like, oh, George, that's awesome. I did something similar to that, and here's how I solved that problem. But like, that's information I never would have got unless I went up and started talking to a group of strangers and kind of poured my heart out a little bit. And like, just the warmth I received back from that was healing. It's like, not only did I help solve a problem, but I made a friend. I can call this person all the time. Like, there's really something to this idea of community that seems to be burgeoning from the psychedelic community in a way that I haven't ever seen before.
You said it.
All right. Let me drop. I got a few. You guys okay on time? I got a few more questions here from the chat, and then I'll let you guys go.
Cool.
This one says, this one is coming to us from Eli from San Francisco. He says, how do you balance individuality and teamwork in the psychedelic space?
I mean, if you do actively listen to people that are coming to you and saying, I want to help, I want to do something, I want to be involved, here are my skill sets, or put me to work in these ways, like, people will rise to the occasion. I feel like giving opportunities and space for that and helping to cultivate that openness, like, people will show up. I mean, that's what I try to do, is listen and then try to identify everybody's superpowers and skill sets, and then the puzzle starts putting itself together.
Super well said. Yeah. As a entrepreneur, as like someone who, like, it's me, myself, and I in my business right now growing, but for now, it's really important to listen to my intuition, figure out the types of collaborations that I want to have, the individuals that I want to bring into the work that I'm doing. Really, just value alignment is so important. And also hiring on and trusting people that are doing things that I can't do, that immediately will make everything better. We feed it into each other. We make magic happen when we trust in our skill set and then outsource when we can't meet the mark, right? And also just knowing when to say no is really, really important too. Like, just because someone's in the industry doesn't mean that's a match. Sometimes there's like, something unsaid there that it's like, okay, it just feels like a no, I don't want to continue this partnership or work with someone. So you got to listen to that as well. And that's how we make even more magic happen, is knowing our boundaries.
That is beautiful. It's
Nailed
really
it.
well said.
Can I go back to your nephew Chase real quick?
Yeah, please do.
Something came to mind because I love what Chase brought up, like around bridging the generational gaps, and having more of these conversations. And if you are unclear, if you have a psychedelic society in and around your geography and your city or your state, check out Global Psychedelic Society, which is an organization that's like an umbrella for dozens and dozens, I want to say hundreds of psychedelic societies worldwide. There's groups in Portugal and Spain and Canada and Mexico and all over, but many, many through the US. So if you want to get involved, or you want to have some more resources, or just see if there's, local conversations or events, like, check that out. And if you get inspired because you don't have one in your neighborhood, maybe you want to start one of your own. Just saying.
Yeah. Chase, we love you, buddy. Think about it. Get on there. Let's do this.
GPS, Global Psychedelic Society.
Carly and Jacob, I love this conversation, and I'm grateful to get to spend time with you guys and hang out with you. And I'm looking forward to everything we build in the future and seeing the success of both of you. As we land in the plane, I wanted to take a moment to throw it back to each of you to maybe shine a light on where you're at, how people can find you, and what you got coming up. Let me start over here with you, Carly.
Yeah, thank you so much, George. It's always just such an honor to be in your presence. Like Jacob was saying earlier, and I echo this, is like you just ask the best questions. You're such a good interviewer. You're so good at facilitating. So thank you. Thank you to my co-producer, Jacob. It just was, I don't even need to say too many words or I'll start crying. Christian, love you so much. It was just an honor to work on this event with both of you. Just like a highlight of my entire life for sure. For me, coming up, we've got the Psychedelic Professionals Networking Club, August 21st, I believe. I'll have George share some information and link for that and a discount code for you all. It's for really anyone in the psychedelic ecosystem to come and connect. We've got a really great method for facilitating those connections. So it's not just like come and like throw wet noodles at a wall and see what sticks. Like there's questions that help cultivate those meaningful relationships, and we've seen so many cool things come out of that group. I'm honored to facilitate that. It's a bi-monthly event. And then also Studiodelic, the design and branding studio that serves businesses within the psychedelic industry. Always hoping to work with really awesome people in this space that are doing innovative things. I've got some amazing projects coming out right now, and I'm definitely accepting new clients. So if you have been thinking about doing some brand development for any of your projects or some design refinement, or maybe it's your first go at this and you don't even know where to start, like super open to just having a conversation about how to really help have your business make an impact within the psychedelic space. So thanks for the platform to share myself and what I have to offer. Appreciate you.
Yeah, well said. And everything will be in the show notes. And cool. Do yourself a favor to listen to this. Go check out what Carly is doing, what she's done. The portfolio is amazing. She's amazing. Definitely check out the Psychedelics Club coming up. Jacob, what about you? What's on the radar, man?
I echo and share Carly's sentiments. First of all, this has been, the opus event of my 24 years working in and around, music industry, the entrepreneurial space, the cannabis industry, the psychedelics ecosystem. I mean, this has been pinnacle, and to co-create with Carly and Christian and the next dozen, including you, George, and so many others that should get shout outs, and I think we're going to do future interviews with, so they will in their due time. It's been amazing. So, but yeah, to all the shameless plugs. I mean, for District 216, for those of you who don't know, we're based in Santa Barbara for the physical social club, but then we have an online offering as well. So any of our interviews or discussion panels can be viewed through online memberships. You can actually spend $20 a month to support us to keep doing good content and bringing together the ecosystem. And go in and check out. We have almost 100 long form pieces of content filmed and edited in our platform. We use Mighty Networks, which is a pretty standard platform which works. And for the in-person events, we meet every Wednesday. So if you are in Southern California or you want to come to take a trip to Santa Barbara, like tonight, we have Joe Robinson from SiloSafe coming to talk and be interviewed, who I know works with you, Carly. Next week we have a Conscious Connections Roundtable where it's basically, I like to joke that it's our AA meeting inverse, where we actually sit in a circle to talk about our substance use. And then the following week, the following week we have like a former MMA fighter, Ian McCall, coming to bring his film and do a filmmaker's Q&A after we watch it. And it's all about psychedelic use and traumatic brain injury, TBI. So that's like just August right there. Those next three are going to be amazing. Of course, our marquee events that happen a few times a year. The next big one, as I said earlier, is our Death and Psychedelics 10th marquee event, September 27th, 5 to 10 p.m. in Santa Barbara. I would love to have you. If you are a brand, you can come sponsor. You can have a vendor table or sponsor the event. We have some amazing organizations that show up for those as well. And if you want to connect with us, get on our newsletter. We send an email every week talking about what's coming up. You just go to district216.com, scroll to the bottom, you'll see a sign up there. And if you want to connect with me personally, at Jacob Tell on Instagram and all the things, So I'm pretty Googleable and accessible. So feel free to reach out. I love chatting about all the topics that we covered today. So very open to that.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Chase, Adam, Mary, Vlad, Jen, everybody over on Kick. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's a new platform. Everybody in the chat from Amara, Eli, Luca, Nia, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time. Go down to the show notes, check out the links. There's going to be some promo codes down there. And thank you so much for becoming the best versions of yourself. Hang on briefly afterwards, Carly and Jacob. To everybody else, have a beautiful day. That's all we got. Aloha.